Welcome to my channel HFY Universe. The
We
distress
got
signal
attached with
had been
each other.
broadcasting for 11 days. Everyone believed the colony was already dead. The message repeated endlessly through the stars. Please. Anyone. They're inside the shelters. Then came screams. Then silence. Across the galaxy billions heard it. Nobody answered. The attackers were the Carthans. A species feared by every civilization. They never negotiated. They never took prisoners. When their fleets arrived, worlds vanished. The colony of Erix 9 had become their latest target. The Galactic Union declared the world lost. Nearby fleets retreated. Governments issued condolences. The signal continued. No rescue came. Then, on the 12th day, a response appeared. Only 3 words. Humans received call. The galaxy was stunned. Humans. Most species considered them emotional and reckless. Hardly anyone viewed them as a military power. Yet one ship emerged from warp space. Just one. No fleet. No escort. A single human vessel named Resolute. On its bridge stood Captain Ethan Ward. A tired man with a photograph of his young daughter tucked inside his uniform. The colony's final screams echoed through the speakers. Nobody spoke. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. Set course. An officer hesitated. Sir, they outnumber us 100 to 1. I know. We won't survive. Ethan stared at the stars. Neither will they if nobody goes. No one argued after that. Far away, Ambassador Lyra of the Veari watched in disbelief. Her people valued logic above all else. Yet logic offered no explanation. There is no chance of victory, her aide said. Then why are they going? Lyra asked. No one had an answer. Hours later, Resolute entered the Erix system. Thousands of Carthan warships filled the darkness. Their commander, Overlord Crass, laughed when he saw the lone human vessel. One ship. An officer bowed. Shall we destroy it? Crass smiled. Not yet. He wanted the humans to witness their failure. As the distance closed, Ethan opened a communication channel. His face appeared on every Carthan screen. Leave the colony. The Carthan bridge erupted with laughter. Crass leaned forward. You crossed the galaxy to make demands. Ethan remained calm. Leave. You stand alone. Ethan glanced toward the planet below. No. I'm standing with them. For a moment, Crass felt something unexpected. Unease. He quickly buried it. You have 1 minute to flee. The channel closed. The countdown began. Across Union space, millions watched. Most expected the same outcome. A brave but pointless death. 10 seconds. 5, 3, 2, 1. Fire. Thousands of weapons ignited at once. A storm of destruction raced toward Resolute. The galaxy held its breath. Then the human ship vanished. Shock swept through every command center. Crass jumped to his feet. Where did it go? Alarms exploded across the fleet. Resolute suddenly reappeared inside the Carthan formation. Not around it. Inside it. 3 battleships erupted into fire. Shockwaves tore through nearby vessels. Chaos followed instantly. Nobody understood what they had witnessed. Not even the Union's best scientists. The human ship jumped again. Another explosion. Then another. And another. A single vessel was tearing through a fleet thousands strong. For the first time in decades, fear appeared among the Carthans. Deep beneath Erix 9, terrified civilians watched the battle unfold. Child pointed at the screen. Are they coming for us? No one knew. Above them, Resolute continued fighting. The ship burned. Crew members died. Systems failed. Still, Ethan refused to retreat. Every minute he survived meant more lives saved below. Then a new transmission appeared on every screen. Ancient. Encrypted. Human. Ethan's face turned pale. For the first time he looked afraid. The message contained only one sentence. A sentence tied to a secret humanity had hidden for centuries. A secret nobody else knew existed. Ethan read the words, then whispered, "Oh God!" Because somewhere beyond known space, something had heard the call for aid. And it was coming. For 6 terrifying seconds nobody moved. Not aboard Resolute. Not within the Carthan fleet. Not even across the Galactic Union. Everyone stared at the ancient transmission. Something had heard the distress call. Something beyond known space. And it was coming. Captain Ethan Ward felt ice run through his veins. He recognized the code immediately. Only a handful of humans still knew its meaning. Contingency. Last resort. A warning buried centuries earlier. Never activate Beacon Zero. Never. Under any circumstances. Yet somehow the Carthans had triggered it. "Sir," an officer whispered. "What is Beacon Zero?" Ethan didn't answer. Outside the ship, explosions continued tearing through the battlefield. But suddenly none of it mattered. Because an entirely different threat was approaching. "Get every civilian transport off that planet," Ethan ordered. "Now." The bridge crew exchanged confused looks. "Sir, we're winning." "No," Ethan said quietly. "We're running out of time." Far away, Ambassador Lyra watched the transmission repeatedly. The message contained no coordinates, no explanation, just a warning. Yet the human captain looked genuinely afraid. That terrified her more than the Carthans ever had. Meanwhile, aboard the Carthan flagship, Overlord Crass was furious. Dozens of warships had already been destroyed. By one human vessel. His pride burned hotter than the battle itself. Destroy them! Thousands of ships surged forward. Weapons ignited. The void turned white with fire. Resolute disappeared again. Reappeared. Struck. Vanished. Every impossible jump left another trail of wreckage. The Carthans were stronger. More numerous. Yet somehow they were losing. Crass slammed a claw into his command throne. "What are humans?" Nobody answered. 'Cause nobody knew. Back on Eric's 9, evacuation efforts accelerated. Shelters opened. Transports launched. Families rushed aboard. Children cried. Parents prayed. Above them, the human ship fought like a cornered predator. Hours passed. Damage accumulated. Hull breaches spread across multiple decks. Entire sections lost power. Still Ethan remained on the bridge. His uniform stained with blood. Not his own. A nearby officer had died moments earlier. The captain closed the man's eyes. Then returned to command. No speech. No hesitation. Just duty. Lyra watched in silence. Among her people, survival always came first. Retreat was logical. Sacrifice was foolish. Yet the humans kept sacrificing. Again and again. She didn't understand it. But something inside her admired it. Then the sensors detected a new contact. Every ship in the system received the alert simultaneously. At first, nobody understood what they were seeing. The object wasn't emerging from warp. It wasn't using jump technology. It simply appeared. As if reality itself had opened. The battlefield froze. A massive shadow formed beyond the outer edge of the system. Larger than a moon. Larger than any vessel ever recorded. Silence spread through every command center. Even the Carthans stopped firing. Then the object moved. Slowly. Deliberately. Like a giant waking from sleep. Ethan closed his eyes. "No." An officer stared at the readings. "Sir." "What is that?" The captain finally answered. "A sentinel." Nobody recognized the name. But Ethan did. Human history described them only in fragments. Ancient guardians. Ancient destroyers. No one knew. The records were incomplete. All humanity knew was one horrifying fact. Every civilization that encountered a sentinel vanished. Entire species erased. Entire star systems emptied. And now one had arrived. Crass laughed. For the first time in hours. "So this is your secret weapon?" Ethan looked at the screen. "No." The captain's voice barely rose above a whisper. This isn't ours. The laughter died instantly. The giant structure continued approaching. Millions of lights ignited across its surface. Not weapons. Thousands of them. Watching, studying, judging. A transmission burst across every frequency. No language. No symbols. Just a sound. A deep pulse that shook ships to their cores. Several Carthan vessels exploded instantly. Without being attacked. Without warning. Their systems simply failed. Panic spread. What is happening? Why are ships detonating? We're losing control. The battlefield descended into chaos. Then the sentinel finally spoke. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Ancient, cold, unimaginably powerful. Distress beacon acknowledged. Every living being listened. Threat assessment initiated. Pause followed. The kind of pause that made hearts stop. Then the voice continued. Probability of hostile contamination confirmed. Across the Carthan fleet, alarms erupted. One after another. Hundreds of ships. Thousands. Something was scanning them. Analyzing them. Judging them. Crass suddenly felt fear. Real fear. For the first time in his life. "Attack it," he roared. The Carthan fleet obeyed. Tens of thousands of weapons fired. The largest barrage in recorded history. The sentinel never slowed. The attacks struck its surface. And vanished. As though absorbed by the darkness itself. No damage. No reaction. Nothing. The entire galaxy watched in disbelief. Humans had feared this thing. Now everyone understood why. The sentinel spoke again. Hostile force identified. Another pause. Then came the sentence that chilled every soul present. Extermination authorized. The stars themselves seemed to tremble. And deep within the enormous structure, something began to awaken. Something far worse than the sentinel itself. Ethan stared at the readings. His blood ran cold. Because according to every classified record humanity possessed, the sentinel wasn't a weapon. It was a prison. And someone inside had just been released. The moment the prison opened, every sensor in the Eric system failed. Greens flickered. Communications died. Navigation systems crashed. For a few terrifying seconds, even the stars seemed to disappear. Then something emerged. First, nobody could understand its shape. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a creature. It looked like a piece of darkness torn loose from reality itself. The thing drifted from the heart of the sentinel. Silent. Motionless. Yet every living being felt it. An overwhelming pressure. Like standing beneath an ocean. Like being watched by a god. Across the Carthan fleet, panic exploded. Warships began retreating. Commanders screamed orders. Pilots abandoned formations. For the first time in their history, the Carthans were afraid. Overlord Crass stared at the impossible readings. Nothing made sense. The object had no mass. No energy signature. No detectable structure. Yet every warning system classified it as an extinction-level threat. "Impossible," Crass whispered. Then one of his battleships vanished. No explosion. No debris. No flash. Simply ceased to exist. 3 million crew members gone instantly. The battlefield fell silent. Another ship disappeared. Then another. And another. Entire vessels were being erased from reality. The thing wasn't attacking. It was merely looking at them. Captain Ethan felt his stomach tighten. Ancient human records called these beings wardens. No one knew who created them. No one knew where they came from. Only one fact remained in every surviving archive. Never wake them. Humanity had discovered that truth thousands of years earlier. An exploration fleet had vanished near the edge of known space. Only one damaged vessel returned. Its crew had gone insane. Its final warning became humanity's greatest secret. Do not disturb the sleeping gods. The bridge lights dimmed. An officer stared at the tactical display. "Sir. It's targeting the Carthans." Ethan nodded slowly. "For now. The officer's face turned pale. For now, Ethan didn't answer. Because he knew the truth. Wardens didn't distinguish between innocent and guilty. Once awakened, they cleansed everything. Civilizations, worlds, entire regions of the galaxy. The Carthans had merely been noticed first. Suddenly the warden moved. A ripple crossed space itself. Thousands of Carthan ships vanished simultaneously. 1 second they existed. The next they were gone. Shock swept across the galaxy. No weapon in history came close to such power. Not even the strongest human fleets. Not even the Sentinel. The Carthan armada broke completely. Ships fled in every direction. Overlord Crass abandoned all pride, all honor, all ambition. Retreat. His voice cracked with fear. Retreat immediately. Nobody questioned him. The fleet scattered. But escape was impossible. The warden turned. Space folded around it. Hundreds of fleeing ships disappeared. Then thousands. The greatest military force in the region was being annihilated before the eyes of the galaxy. Ambassador Lyra sat frozen. She could barely breathe. Humans had hidden this secret. For centuries, entire civilizations feared human determination. Feared their endurance, their courage, their survival instinct. Now the galaxy learned there was another reason. Humans carried nightmares in chains. And somehow they had kept those chains locked. Until today. A transmission suddenly reached Resolute. Weak, distorted, but unmistakably human. Captain. Evacuation status complete. Ethan closed his eyes. The civilians had escaped. Millions were safe. The mission had succeeded. Yet victory felt impossible. Because the warden was still growing stronger. Every scan showed the same thing. Its energy output was increasing. Rapidly. Dangerously. The Sentinel transmitted again. For the first time, its ancient voice sounded uncertain. Containment failure detected. Silence followed. Then another message. One sentence. One horrifying sentence. Probability of universal extinction. 73%. The bridge erupted. Crew members stared in disbelief. Even veteran officers looked terrified. 73%. Not planetary extinction. Not galactic extinction. Universal extinction. Life itself was at risk. Ethan felt the weight of every soul in existence pressing onto his shoulders. The warden continued drifting through the battlefield. Watching. Learning. Evolving. The Carthans had awakened something beyond their understanding. Something beyond anyone's understanding. Then the impossible happened. The warden stopped. Every sensor locked onto a single point. Earth. Half a galaxy away. The homeworld of humanity. Ethan's blood froze. No. The creature wasn't interested in the Carthans anymore. It wasn't interested in Eric's 9. It wasn't interested in the war. It was looking toward Earth. Toward the species that had imprisoned it long ago. Toward the descendants of those who had chained it. The warden finally spoke. Its voice echoed across thousands of star systems. Cold. Ancient. Filled with hatred older than civilization itself. Humanity identified. Millions listened in terror. The creature continued. Original jailers confirmed. Every human in the galaxy felt their hearts stop. The warden's next words shattered all hope. Sentence pending. Then space opened behind it. Not a portal. Not a jump gate. A wound. A scar stretching across the stars. And from that wound, billions of identical signals suddenly appeared. Billions. The battlefield fell into stunned silence. Because the first warden had never been alone. It had merely been the first to awaken. And now an entire army was coming. Billions. That was the number displayed across every screen in the galaxy. Billions of warden signals. Billions of ancient horrors awakening beyond the wound in space. The sight shattered governments. Military commanders stopped speaking. Entire worlds descended into panic. There was no strategy. No defense. No hope. Even the mighty Sentinel seemed insignificant against what was coming. Captain Ethan Ward stood motionless on the bridge of Resolute. For the first time since the battle began, he felt completely helpless. Earth appeared on the main display. Small blue world. Fragile. Beautiful. His daughter was there. Billions of families were there. And the Wardens were coming. Then something unexpected happened. The Sentinel transmitted directly to Ethan. Not to the fleet. Not to the Union. To him. The ancient voice filled the bridge. Human representative identified. Every officer turned toward their captain. Ethan swallowed hard. I'm listening. A long silence followed. Then came a revelation that changed everything. Original jailers were not human. The bridge froze. Ethan stared at the speaker. What? The Sentinel continued. Humans inherited containment responsibility. Shock swept through the room. For thousands of years humanity had believed their ancestors imprisoned the Wardens. The truth was far stranger. An older civilization had built the prisons. That civilization had vanished. Humanity had simply become the final guardians. The last species willing to carry the burden. The Sentinel spoke again. Containment protocols require voluntary sacrifice. Ethan's stomach tightened. He already knew where this was going. How many? The answer came instantly. All available operators. Silence. Every human aboard Resolute understood. There would be no surviving this. No rescue. No miracle. The Sentinel required living minds to reactivate the ancient prison network. Thousands of operators. Thousands of sacrifices. Ethan looked around the bridge. No one ran. No one protested. No one begged. Instead, one young officer smiled. Looks like we're working overtime, Captain. Several nervous laughs followed. The tension broke for a moment. Then Ethan nodded. Transmit to all human vessels. Minutes later, the message spread across human space. Every military ship. Every civilian transport. Every station. Every colony. The request was simple. Volunteers needed. Probability of survival, 0. The response arrived almost immediately. And more. Then thousands more. Millions. Humans volunteered faster than the systems could process. Parents, soldiers, scientists, pilots, ordinary people. One after another. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Ambassador Lyra felt tears forming in her eyes. Her species could not comprehend it. No reward. No chance of survival. Yet humans kept stepping forward. A Veari officer beside her whispered softly. Why are they doing this? Lyra finally understood. Because everyone else is behind them. Across the galaxy, countless alien civilizations watched humanity choose sacrifice. Not for power. Not for glory. For strangers. For worlds they would never see. For lives they would never know. In that moment, aliens finally realized the truth. Humans were different. Terrifyingly different. Hours later, the activation began. Ancient prison stations hidden across the galaxy awakened. One by one. Thousands of forgotten structures lit up among the stars. The Wardens advanced. The prison network activated. The two forces collided. Reality itself shook. Stars flickered. Space twisted. Entire sectors disappeared beneath waves of impossible energy. Inside Resolute, alarms screamed. The ship was dying. But the network continued charging. Ethan opened the photograph inside his jacket. His daughter's smiling face looked back at him. For a moment he simply stared. Then he smiled. Worth it. The final sequence began. The Sentinel's voice echoed through every communication channel. Containment restoration at 99%. Outside, billions of Wardens surged toward the galaxy. Closer. 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 Then the counter reached 100. Light exploded across the universe. Not destructive light. Protective light. Ancient light. The prison network came alive. The wound in space began closing. One Warden vanished. then 1,000, then 1,000,000, then billions. The impossible army disappeared back into the darkness from which it came. The wounds sealed shut. The stars stabilized. The nightmare ended. Silence followed. For several seconds nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody breathed. Then cheers erupted across the galaxy. Worlds celebrated. Governments rejoiced. Entire species cried with relief. They were alive. Against all odds, they were alive. But the celebration quickly faded, because many of the volunteers never returned. Among them was the crew of Resolute. The ship disappeared during the final containment surge. No wreckage. No signal. Nothing. Captain Ethan Ward was declared lost. Hero. Legend. Years passed. Monuments were built. Stories were told. Children learned about the day humanity saved the galaxy. And every species remembered the lesson. Humans were not the strongest. They were not the oldest. They were not the most advanced. But when the darkness came, when everyone else ran, humans answered the call, even knowing the cost. Then, 20 years later, something impossible happened. Faint signal emerged from deep space. Ancient. Image. Human. 3 words appeared on screens across the galaxy. Mission accomplished. Returning. For a moment nobody believed it. Then celebrations erupted across thousands of worlds. Because the galaxy had learned something long ago. Never underestimate humanity. Not when they are protecting the people they love. Not when hope is fading. And especially not when a call for aid goes unanswered. Because if humans hear that call, they will come. No matter what stands in their way.